Sweet. Okay. Good afternoon, guys. This is another Wednesday at lunch with the State Department Special Education Services. I'm Shawna Keene. I think I forgot to say that on the last one. And today we're going to be talking about goals. We have taken the IEP and kind of chunked it up, and we will be recording these every other Wednesday. If you missed the other ones, we have them posted on EdPlan under the state tab. You're more than welcome to view them there. If you would like to sign up for the next ones, give us a call or go on our State Department website and you can sign up for those. Okay, moving along, today our objectives are going to be the definition of a goal, types of goals, reporting progress, and of course, goals progress monitoring. We really think this is an important part of the IEP. Sometimes we as teachers skip over it, or we just don't take enough time looking at it. We just literally click and move on, add it, and go. So we really want you guys to start being more mindful of the goals part of an IEP. On this, it says the individual education program, of course, which is the IEP. The goals set the general direction to be taken for implementing the IEP and, of course, determining progress. Measurable annual goals provide the basis for instruction, describing what a child needs related to how his or her disability affects their education. And that's always a big component on children on an IEP. How is their disability affecting their education? So I want to start this out. This is a good talking point. John was told to tile the sink by Friday. And this is what we got. So, to some of us, we would argue that John did reach his goal. The sink is tiled. But to some of us, we would argue that no, that does not count as a tiled sink. It is very sloppy. It is not put together well. There's grout everywhere. So, that may be something, this is a good slide to show your teachers. Is the goal met? Well, kind of. If you're just saying to have the sink tiled, it is tiled, but there was more to it. But it was my fault. I did not give the guidelines that I wanted it to be pretty and well put together. I just said tile the sink. So that's the same thing as our students on an IEP. When you're writing their goals, have you set their goals to where they understand exactly what's expected of them, where the parents can understand what goals you're going to be working on during this year? So it's just kind of something to think about. And of course, has the goal been met? I would say yes, they did tile it. For my OCD friends, you probably would say no, absolutely not. That's why it's so important we make sure our goals are very clear and measurable so we can actually see, did they meet the goal? And of course, what is a goal? A goal is a written measurable statement that describes what a student is reasonably expected to accomplish within the time period covered by the IEP. Goals focus on reducing the needs described and the present levels of performance which interfere with learning or educational performance. You really want to make sure you guys are looking at the present levels. You're not just picking what kind of goals. You're really looking at what does that student need to be successful. Goals clearly show or indicate skills, knowledge, most important to a student's long-term academic or educational progress. Goals and objectives are directed towards closing the gap between ability achievement and level, and of course helping the child increase in ability. You really want to stay away from generic goals. You know, Johnny will pass all of his classes. Well, that's the goal for every student in the state of Oklahoma. We want them all to pass their classes. We see this one as well. Johnny will graduate high school. Fabulous goal to have. Unfortunately, that's the goal of every child in Oklahoma. We want them to pass and to graduate. So you really want to make sure you're taking those present levels and writing measurable goals. And by the end of this, you'll be tired of hearing me say measurable goals. So when you go to write your goals, you'll be like, Shawna said, measurable. Oh. There we go. In Ed Plan, of course, our goals and objectives are on one page. Goals and objectives to address areas of need can be added to the Goals and Objectives tab of the IEP process. Make sure your annual goal is meaningful when the expectation is reasonable. The skill or knowledge the goal represents is necessary for success in school, and you want to make sure the family really believes in it. It's kind of hard for parents when you say, you know, we want Johnny to read on his 8th grade level. Well, that's fabulous. Johnny's in the 8th grade. Of course we want him to read on the 8th grade level. But Johnny's skill is he's on the 1st grade level. So you really want to make sure you talk to the parents and explain that the goals, accommodations, instruction, all that will help close the gap for Johnny. And it should be your measurable annual goals should provide basis for instruction. Really look at your goals. So Johnny's goal is reading. So let's look at our reading instruction. Does he need co-taught? Does he need monitored? Does he need direct instruction? Make sure the educational needs resulting from the disability. Make sure they're meaningful, like I was saying. Sometimes it's hard. You know, you set a goal, and if it's not meaningful for you, it's kind of hard to stay on task. Same as our students. Reasonable expectations, like I said, you don't want to set them too high that they can never accomplish anything, but also you don't want to set them too low where they will accomplish them the first day. Make sure you align them to Oklahoma academic standards. Use those as your basis. The goal is necessary for success in school. The family believes the goals are important. And make sure you want measurable goals. The skill or behavior can be observed or recorded. Like I said, if you put Johnny will pass all of his classes, so the first time he passes all of his classes, he's met his goals. You should be doing an addendum and rewrite more goals to work on. So that's why you kind of want to stay away from those. Goals must be meaningful and measurable in order to be used for decision making. An annual goal is meaningful when the expectations are set and the student knows exactly what needs to be done. When writing our goals can be one of the hardest parts of the IEP. We know that. It's not easy to decide what a student needs. That's why you rely on your data. Look at the present levels. Where is the child at right now, and where would you like to see them in the end of this, at the year, end of this year, or into this IEP? What does the child need to learn or do academically? That's why we have the Oklahoma Academic Standards. What are you guys going to be working on in the gen ed curriculum? What are the standards that they're teaching? How can we, the IEP team, make sure that they're successful in that? Is it, if he struggles in reading, is it reading fluency? Is it reading comprehension? Is it phonemic awareness? What goals does he need to help with his reading? Also, ask this question. What does he or she need to learn or do functionally? What's reasonable to achieve in a year? Like I said, you want to make sure you're setting goals that that child can achieve. Now, I'm not saying you set them easy. That's where there's kind of a happy medium. You want to set them high enough for them to reach the goal, but you don't want to set them so low that they meet them the first week. And of course, can you measure whether or not the child has reached the goal? Just like with my sink being tiled, you have expectations and I have expectations. Make sure you clearly put those in a goal. If you have a certain expectation for a certain goal, make sure it's clear for that. And how are you going to measure it? You want to make sure your IEP goals are SMART. You can use that acronym. It stands for, the letters stand for, S, specific. The goal is specific in naming the skill or subject area and the targeted result. We have M for measurable. The goal is stated in a way that your child's progress can be measured. That can be done using standardized tests, curriculum-based measurements, or screening. You really want to make sure you're using those components to see if a student measures their goal. That way you have fidelity instead of just saying, yeah, you know, I think they kind of meant it, yeah, I'll just mark it. That way you have data to back it up. Really use the data. A, attainable. The goal represents progress that is realistic for your child, and have conversations with that student. You know, for your middle school or high school students, talk to them. Hey, this is the goal we've set this year. This is what we're working towards. This is the progress you've made. This is how far you have to go to meet this goal. I think sometimes we as teachers forget that. We don't always talk to our students so they know the expectations that's set before them. Are relevant or realistic, if you want that word too. The goal clearly lays out what your child will do to accomplish it. Just like my sink being tiled, I needed to be more specific about the parameters and basis on what does it mean to tile a sink. Timely, the goal includes a time frame in which your child will achieve it with the right supports and services. It also states when and how often the progress will be measured. You can't just say you have a kindergartner, your goal is to graduate high school. Well, that's 12, 13 years from now. So you want to make sure you're really looking at that and you're setting timely goals. Assessments guide your goal development. Really, you look at your district-wide assessments. If you have any kind of assessments you guys do periodically, or if you do it every 9 weeks, your assessment should generated to identify a student's current level of performance, and that should drive the appropriate goal development. So you should look at that data and see, okay, what do we need to work on? Where are some of our holes, and how can we fill those gaps? Annual goals are related to the needs described in the present levels of performance, and goals are specific to the needs of the student based on assessment areas of weakness. So if, like I said, Sally struggles in reading, that's great, but where does she struggle in reading? Is it fluency, comprehension, phonemic awareness, long vowels, short vowels? Like, really break it apart and see what part of reading is she struggling that we need to work towards, and use that to write your goals. Then it would be easier to write measurable goals because you know exactly what you're going to do. These measurable annual goals must be designed to meet the child's needs that result from the child's disability. And I know, guys, we're saying, you're like, I know, Shawna, you keep saying this over and over. I want to make sure you guys really understand the importance of a measurable goal. It's to enable the child to be involved in and make progress in the general education curriculum. That's where we want our special ed students. We want them in the gen ed curriculum as much as possible. So what are we going to do as a team to make sure they have all the supports they need to be successful in the gen ed curriculum? And of course, the annual goals should meet each of the child's other educational needs that result from the child's disability. And academic goals are great. That's where a lot of our goals are written, in the academic realm. But look at it. Do you have a student with behavior issues? Put some behavior goals in there and talk to the child about that. Don't just write the goals, and these are the goals we're working on. Go over it with the parent or the gen ed teacher, but the child doesn't know what's expected of them. So sit down and have a talk with the student. These are our academic goals. These are our behavior goals. Some of our students may need social goals. Maybe they need goals on staying organized, or even self-help goals. All of these goals, it just depends. There's no right or wrong. We get this question a lot. How many goals do I need to put in there? Well, however many goals the student needs. There's no right or wrong answer. Some children may need 2 goals. Some may need 10. You just want to be careful. You don't want to write, 20 or 30, because then that's hard to measure and make sure the student is making progress. Now, if a student does need 20 goals, put them in there. Just make sure they're measurable. Okay, in Ed Plan, of course, we have goal banks that are in there for you guys. Now, these goal banks are not the only ones you can use. I was told that in Engage that I only can use these goals. Absolutely not. We have a place where you can custom write your goals. You can use our goals that are already pre-populated in there kind of as a starting point or as a guideline maybe. You can rewrite them to make sure they're all measurable for a student. So really take your time, use your data, choose your goal, make sure they're measurable. We have 3 different goal lists. Of course, our Ed Plan goals, that's kind of our generic goals: behavior, speech, OTPT, social, emotional. That's our goal bank, one of the goal banks. Then, of course, we have the Oklahoma Academic Standards. That's where our Oklahoma Academic Standards, that's that goal bank. Like I said, feel free to use those as a starting point, and then you can manipulate or add to them if you want to. And then, of course, we have the Oklahoma Academic Standards Extended Academic Indicator. But feel free to write your own goals and customize them, what's best for that student. And we get this, Sally's in 3rd grade, so I only can pick this one 3rd grade writing goal. That's not what we've said. It's really based on the student and what the student needs and the team feels is appropriate at the time. I really want you guys to stay away from, I write this one goal for everyone on my caseload and that's the only goal they have. And that's fine, but you really want to make sure you're looking at the individual student. Is that appropriate for them? Do they need that goal to be successful? If yes, then put it in there. If no, then don't put them in there just because they're on your caseload. Don't put that particular goal. Informed progress. In the area of informed progress, the IEP team will address how will the parents be informed of the student's progress towards the annual goal. The drop-down option for one required selection is, of course, we have progress notes, report card, progress monitoring, and other, which is an open text box. I would kind of stay away from progress report cards because it's kind of, Sally will increase her fluency by 100 words. This is just a random goal. And then I put she got an A on her report card. Is that really measuring that particular goal? No. So kind of really look at what your goal is, how you said they were going to be measured, what tools or evaluation procedures you were going to use, then if it's appropriate to use that for that goal. And then, of course, the drop down weekly, monthly, 6-week, 9-week, quarterly, annually. I would really get with if you're new to a district, get with your special ed director because they probably have a set time period when they want to send progress notes home. So if you have any questions, I would reach out to your director or coordinator for that. When you're reporting progress, part of a good goal design is periodically checking to see whether the student is making progress towards the goal. In each IEP, the goal will specifically specify the frequency of reporting progress, the types of progress monitoring, and how parents will be informed. You really want to take a look at that. If the student is not making progress on that goal, then do we need to add some objectives to help them? Do we need to change the accommodations? Or do we need to rewrite more goals or add to them or take some away? Really look at that and see what is it that that goal is telling us. What is the progress on that goal telling us? Remember that good goal design is individualized for the needs of the student. All goals should not have an accuracy rate of 80%. Example, Johnny will cross the street 80% of the time. It seems like 80% is the magic number in Oklahoma for some reason. There's no set guideline that says you have to use 80%. So kind of stay away, take a look, take a step back, be mindful what's appropriate for that student. IDEA requires progress reporting for students. All reports generated for parents should be copied for the student's educational records. If a goal has been mastered or has been unsuccessful, then have an IEP meeting, schedule it. Do we need to do an addendum? Talk about that, why we're not meeting those goals. Progress on a goal, progress monitoring is used to assess students' academic performance, to quantify a student's rate of A, improvement, responsiveness to instruction, C, to evaluate the effectiveness of your instruction. You really want to look at that when you're progress monitoring. Johnny has gained, a whole grade level. Well, then let's look at the accommodations. Maybe we need to scale back. He's in direct instruction. Could he handle a co-taught class? Could he handle being in the gen ed more often? Really use your data to make those decisions. In progress monitoring, attention should focus on fidelity of implementation and selection of evidence-based tools. That's really important. Like I said, that way if a parent has questions, you can pull the data and say, hey, here it is. I gave this to him on October 10th. This is what he scored. I gave him the same thing again on December 10th, and this is what he scored. So you want to make sure you have that consistency and you're using those evidence-based tools. Why is it important to talk about progress? Use that data from the progress monitoring to see, is that student having success? Like I said before, if the student is having success, then let's adjust it. Let's see if he can handle more time in gen ed. Also have the conversations with the students. I think sometimes when they're in middle school and high school, we forget that. So maybe you tell Johnny, look, dude, this is what you've done. This is how far you've come. That can be a real confidence booster for our children. Does the team need to change his or her goals? Do we need to set higher goals or harder goals for that student? Talk with the student. What's working for you? This is your goal. I see we're not really making progress. What are some things we can do to help you make progress? You also want to look when you're progress monitoring, if you have a student who is kind of staying still, hasn't made any progress or even regressing, then maybe we need to take a step back and look at his accommodations, at the type of services. Maybe this student needs more time in the special ed classroom getting one-on-one. Now really, and I know you guys are saying, Shawna, I'm busy, and I'm going to say, yes, you're right, we're all busy, but that's what's important for these students. That's how we're going to show that we're making gains and talking to the parent, talking to the student, make sure they're successful in the gen ed classroom. Now, I will tell you, if you do feel you need to make changes on an IEP, Unfortunately, you can't just go make them. You need to call the parent and have a team meeting and discuss about making those changes, whether it be an addendum. In EdPlan, this is what our progress reports look like. I know sometimes they can be a little kind of wonky, so you want to really look at if you're struggling, maybe get with your director or coordinator and maybe they can help guide you, because just because it's a little hard sometimes doesn't mean you don't have to report progress. So you still have to report progress for those students. So make sure you're doing that. Like I said, if you need help with that or you can't get it worked out, please reach out to somebody in your school and they can help guide you. If a goal has been mastered or has been unsuccessful, make sure you're having a meeting to address those and see if things need to be changed. I will tell you, we do all of this because coming to EdPlan in the summer of 2019, we're going to be launching a new feature. It's called the Goals Progress Monitoring. Now, before you all panic on me and start typing super fast, this is just a feature that will be available for you to use to kind of chart their progress. To me, it's a lot easier, and as you can see, there will be charts and stuff. That way, it'll be helpful for the student to show their progress. Now, it will not be a feature you have to use. You do not have to use this feature. And we will be having trainings, because I know it's kind of a big thing getting you guys ready for the summer, next summer. But these are the trainings, attentively, we hope. We're pretty sure these will be the dates. So go ahead and mark them on your calendar. We'll be in McAllister, Lawton, Woodward, Sapulpa, and OKC on these dates. You'll be able to sign up on these. We'll send the listserv once we get everything finalized. Anybody can come to this training. It will be Krista Knight, me, and Jill from PCG. So we're hoping you guys like that, and I think it'll be a lot easier for you guys to report progress with this new feature. And there's my bird. And like I've said before, I know there's a lot of times there's questions in special ed. Please feel free to call this main line. Our guys, we have all ladies except for Jared. We all kind of have our specialties, so they know if you ask a specific question, maybe you want to talk about autism or behavior, secondary transition, early childhood, anything like that. If you call this main line and tell them, hey, I have a question about this, they will guide you to one of us and we will get back to you. Please feel free to call us. That's why we're there for questions. We have about a minute left. Do I have any questions? You can use the chat board. Let's see. I would be curious to know what assessment SPED teachers may be using aside from the district STAR, ACT, Aspire. A long time ago, I used the PIOT-R. Unfortunately, this test is out of print. I'm looking for any comparable ideas. Does anybody out there have any ideas real fast that you guys use at your district level? I know some use Dibbles, some use Literacy First. Also, I think on our the RSA part of the State Department of Education, if you go to the RSA, I know I think there's a list of some that you might can use. If not, if you'll call this number, we might can help you. I know, but I know if you type in RSA on the State Department website, she has a list of reading ones that can be used. I don't know about math. You might want to call curriculum, math curriculum. I bet they would have some awesome ideas. Okay, yeah, for the math, if you're looking for math, if you call, also I know curriculum has a math Facebook page that they keep up with, and I know they have a lot of great ideas. But I know just call up here on the main line and ask for curriculum math. They probably could set you up with some, and I don't know about written expression. Okay, if that's it, then you guys have a fabulous day. I don't know written expression.